Hello, everyone. This is Krisha Young here, and this is the Dirt and the Divine podcast. And today I have a friend of mine from online, Pablo Torres, and he's currently sitting. Hey, Pablo. He's
Hello.
currently sitting in a kava bar.
Yes,
A
Cabo Bar here in Orlando, Florida.
In Orlando, Florida. Awesome. Okay, so you told me a minute ago, but let's just tell anybody who's watching or listening what's a kava bar again?
Kava is from the root of a tree. They drink it in Polynesia. It's kind of like an alternative to alcohol, but nowhere near the effects of alcohol. So it helps with like relaxation and things like that. So
Nice. Is it more like weed in a way?
no, no, not even close. It's like less than the effects of a Tylenol, but
Oh,
it's just a relaxing. It helps like relax the muscles, the mind, things like that.
oh, I love
Very, it's very earthy. It's an earthly flavor, but they put just different flavors in it. So,
Okay. All right. I wonder if it's like high in magnesium.
um, I don't know. I don't know like
Is-
the deep of how the stuff that's in it, but it's pretty pure though. It's just like straight up from the root. They beat it down, they mix it with water, and then they strain it and you drink it.
what
It's
is
from the pepper family. So
Oh,
like pepper, like the spice,
yeah.
the tree is from the pepper family, so it's got a little numbing effect, very mild numbing effect. So
Okay. Oh, wow. So that's like okay, so that's really good for like your immune system. It's
yeah,
really good for
it
um
is good for your immune system.
metabolism. Yeah, yeah. And I wonder if there is a little bit of magnesium in there because magnesium is like a muscle relaxant. It's a
Mm,
natural, it's like Epsom
probably
salt,
then. Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
there is now. We're deciding that there is.
Yeah, we're gonna put it in there, even if
Put
there
it
isn't. We
in.
make up our own
That's
rules
right.
here.
That's right. We now control nature. No.
Yeah.
So Pablo, thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming on and wanting to share your story. And you said you're just a regular guy who went through some shit and
Yeah.
you came through on the other side and had some um spiritual awareness and spiritual awakenings around that. So I would just love to hear your story, just whatever, as deep as you want to go, as much as you want to share. What was it that was the dirt for you, and then like how did you evolve into the divine, and then we'll just go from there.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share my story. Um, wow. So it was about 2.5 years ago. Well, let's say about 3 years ago. I moved to Florida. I was dating a girl, and she lived here in Florida. I lived in Texas, and we were flying back and forth. But we just decided, let's move in together. And that was only like 4 months of knowing each other. So that was a big jump to. I packed up my daughter, moved here to Florida. Um, but I, I don't even think we made it 4 months, and it was, it was tough because I had knew nobody here. I had some family in maybe about an hour and a half away, but knew nobody here. Um, but I was drinking at the time, pretty heavily, and I didn't have I didn't grow up with a bad childhood, or I think I had a really good childhood, so my alcoholism had nothing to do with trauma or anything like that. It was just something, I would say it had more to do with my self-esteem, maybe confidence, things like that. So I was turning to that to maybe be more fun, or however you want to put it. I mean, there was a few, I was kind of a shy person.
Right.
So that like kind of
Yeah. So it's like
let me
that
loose.
courage or whatever.
Yeah.
It's that
Liquid encouragement is what we
liquid
called it.
courage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it would let the bad things out too.
of course.
So all those things that I would hold inside me that weren't good would come out.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I was just unhappy. I was an unhappy person. I started my own business online. I had two businesses, but I was failing in that, and then I lost all my money. I lost like 50 grand in my business. And things just started going downhill from there. And then I started drinking more. Well, she ended up breaking up with me, and I when that happened, I felt like it was it was just this moment where I was like, okay, I'm tired of my life being this way. Like there's only the the common denominator of all the shit that's ever happened in my life is me.
Yeah.
And it was just like a split second moment that like that next morning I literally got online and started researching like personal development stuff, videos on relationship. I mean, it was just like so many things, but it was like full force.
Mhm.
And I didn't like beg her back. I didn't do nothing. I decided to move out. So I moved out. I mean, it was tough for me though. It was like, whew, man, it was really really tough because I still felt like I was gonna have a chance to like get her back if I would personally develop myself. Um, but so I did that when I moved. I actually moved to Melbourne with my auntie. Was there for a couple months. Um, I started going to AA, but I quit drinking that very same day. I was like, something's got to give,
Right.
and I quit drinking because I figured like that was a big part of all the crap that's happened in my life.
Right.
But realizing later on that was drinking was only a symptom of my problem. That's what I was turning to because when I did quit drinking, my life was still shit. It didn't really change nothing other than the fact that I was able, I had more energy. I was doing less stupid shit, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, when I moved to Melbourne, um, I had nothing but my clothes and my car.
Mm.
And that was tough because my daughter was stayed with her while I was, away, and that was tough. But she stayed because she was in school. Um, but anyways, I was like digging deep into all these videos and books and things like that. I mean, I felt like I was desperate. It was just, it was so bad. The heartache was, I don't know, it was really bad. But I ended up going to this lady, like a fortune teller or somebody who read cards. Like
Okay.
I was that desperate, and she read my cards, and she goes, I feel like you have a heartbreak, and if you want her back, then you pay me 350 bucks and we'll do this and this and that. And I like didn't have the money, but I like found the money to go do this. And she gave me this like 2 weeks worth of stuff to do. It was like meditation and don't eat certain things on a certain day. And I went through all that. And I feel like after that was done, I had this total spiritual awakening. Like it was just on top of like what I did with her, I felt like things were just coming to me. So when I would like look for a video, another video would pop up that would help me. And
Yeah.
then, so on and so I went down the rabbit hole of YouTube,
Right.
and it's like I saw this video from Trevor Isley, and he talked about the dark night of the soul. And I was like, yo, this is what I'm going through. Like I'm going through hell right now. I mean, I wasn't eating. It was just,
Yep.
but he talked about, you know, everything that you've been through is it's your, you have control over where you're going to go from there. Whatever happens to you, it's going to happen.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I try to focus more on myself. And what sucked is I was focusing so much on myself that I wasn't doing some of the things I should have, like my daughter. And that was like super, super tough.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's probably out of all this, that was the toughest thing is that I
Yeah.
felt like for temporarily I abandoned my daughter to take care of myself. And now that I think about it, is that I did that. It was a sacrifice on her part, on both of our parts. But I feel like I'm such a better person now to having been able to do that. Me and my daughter's relationship is like it's so strong now, and I'm glad I took the time to take care of myself because I know like we lead by example. Like I can tell my daughter what to do, but she's gonna lead by an example, and I wanted to be the best example I can so she can, be the best person she can. Um,
I love
but
that.
yeah, so I ended up going back and forth with her for like 2 years, and something, whew, man, something that I learned. as that finding my self-worth through this person. You know, I felt like I was chasing and chasing and chasing, and all that was doing was pushing, pushing, pushing her away. But she was
Yeah.
giving me crumbs and, just the little things, and I was picking those up. But man, after all this, after all the relationship stuff, like I finally was like, I'm worth way more now. I went through so much. I started meditating and doing all. Oh, that's another thing too. Like I got into meditation, a couple when that after that had happened. And then I ended up going to a Vipassana meditation retreat, which is the 10-day
Yep.
silent. Oh wow, that was crazy. That 10 days of no talking.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. I almost feel like right now I am in Vipassana. Like
Yeah, if
where
you're
we are right now
quarantined.
with everything locked down and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't need to go to Vipassana. I'm in a Vipassana right now.
Yeah. Man, that's like super, super tough. That was a big accomplishment for
Yeah,
me. I
that would,
remember,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, especially from where you were. Not like you were new to this world, right? And like sitting in that kind of silence is like, wow. I want to hear more about that experience. Yeah. Anyway, keep going. I've
yeah.
got notes about where to come back to.
Okay. But I felt like even still, everything that I was doing, the relationship books, the meditation, um, just so many things that I was doing, and it wasn't working because I felt like I was doing everything to
Right.
get back with her, but
Right.
I knew that it was benefiting me in the end. But that's not what I was focused on, and I was focused on the wrong things. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, I was so focused.
Truth right there.
The crazy thing is, in when I finally realized my value, my self-worth, I completely cut her off.
Yeah.
Like I moved on, I
Yeah.
started, dating other people, and then that's when she wanted to come back. But I didn't want it no more. I felt like I would, because to me she was a very, I don't know, she was maybe I don't want to say above me, but in spirituality and in certain levels, she was like above me. And I felt like she was better than me in a sense. So I was trying to catch up to her. And then after all this that I went through, and I'm trying to like knock my ego out here, but I do feel like I passed her up in a certain sense of growth,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I'm glad I did. Like, because I feel like my life right now is, I love my life to the fullest. Like there's so many great things that came out of all this bad stuff. And even, man, even I want to say it was last year, I was still, having a rough time back and forth with her. So I ended up getting an invite to go do ayahuasca from a friend. And I'm like, whoa, this will totally help me, get through all this. And holy crap, one night of doing ayahuasca is like 365 days of meditation,
Really. I haven't.
all packed in one. It was like,
Holy
it's
cow. Like
unimaginable.
went balls to the wall here.
Yeah, it
Vipassana,
was, I was,
ayahuasca.
yes. And I got to be careful too. Something that I think about too is I'm trying to be careful of chasing
Yeah.
so much to get better. And
Yeah.
like there is no destination
Yeah.
of healing.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, I realize that healing is now.
Yes.
Like no matter what I'm going through, if I'm sad, if I'm mad, if I'm depressed, I'm healed. As long as I can stay present in the moments that are here as often as I can, I'm healed. I'm only not healed when I'm thinking about the past or thinking about the future, which neither one exists.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that first night, or that first ceremony of ayahuasca, I remember the next day I seen everything with a different view. And something that stuck out to me was that all the stuff that's ever happened in my life, all the bad stuff, all the good stuff, they weren't labeled as good or bad. They were just
They
experiences.
were
And
just,
if I can look at that
yeah.
as just experiences, that's life.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what life is. It's full of experiences, and we do put labels on stuff like, oh, this was bad. This bad thing happened to me, but they don't see that well, after that, this good thing happened to me. So it's yin yang. It's like there's this balance. There's an up and down frequency that we ride on, and I'm learning to enjoy that. Like even if it's bad, I know it's not gonna last. Even if it's good, that's not gonna last. So I gotta enjoy that.
Right.
Um,
Yes. That's consciousness.
yeah, and
That's
I
love.
I do feel more aware too of from meditation is what's helped me a lot too is my reaction to things. So with Vipassana, with that meditation, you start from your head to your toe, and you feel the sensations throughout your body. You notice like, oh, I feel tingly in my head, my nose, my, focus on my breath, my arms, everything all the way down. But what's happening is that when you're sitting in meditation, you're not reacting,
Yeah.
you're not moving. And outside of meditation is where that works, is that when something happens, something bad happens or whatever, you're less reactive to
Yeah.
those things that are, happening. And then you can respond better. So my bad trait that I thought what alcohol caused was my reaction to everything.
Right.
And that's what got me in trouble was my reaction. I was quick to react. I
Right.
didn't think. I was just saying stuff and doing stuff and hurting people's feelings and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Now it's like I'm able to respond. I'm able to be aware of what's going on, soak that in for a second and respond properly. And now my response is usually realizing that whatever this person does to me is pretty much they are me. If I can look at someone as they are me, I can respond to them as how I would respond to myself. Because I do know that, people that project their pain onto you, that's all them. It's not, has nothing to do with me. If someone treats me like crap, that's just what they have inside of them.
Yep.
So yeah,
And
that was
also, and also sometimes it is us being reflected back to us as well, right? So I
to
always
show us.
take a dual look at that, like if there is ever some sort of conflict or discomfort or whatever it is between me and another individual, I always take that dual look, because you alluded to that before about, like, there is that duality, right?
Yeah.
It's the yin and yang, it's a lot, it's the law of polarity, all of that kind of stuff. And so when that conflict comes up for me, it's not even really conflict. When that reflection comes back up, for what comes up for me, I'm not always, oh, that's them, that's their stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I reflecting? What is this? What's the mirror in this, first and foremost? And then I look at that first. What's the mirror? What am I projecting? Why are they behaving that way towards me? That, like, what am I doing to evoke that kind of response, right? Like, it's that personal responsibility is
Yeah.
where I go first with it. And not like self blame or self flagellation or anything like that, although it can go there
Yeah.
if left unchecked, right? But I generally just, okay, so, of course this is coming up because this is reflecting my anxious attachment style, or this is coming up because of, this is rejection or whatever, right? Like, this is
Yeah.
my story. It's because I'm afraid of pens. They're not
Mhm.
afraid of pens. I'm the one who's afraid of the pen. That's why it's triggering to me or
Yeah.
activating to me. And then once I can kind of scrub through that, then I can then look at that other person and be like, okay, yeah, and the rest of it is yours. Like,
It makes you
you
less
take that shit.
judgmental. I'll tell you. Well, it's made me less judgmental when I can look at
Yeah.
somebody as a mirror and
Yeah.
I realize, that's me. Like they're doing, that's what I would do. And I try to tell people this all the time is like, it's like the shadow part of yourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And they're like, well, what about a serial killer? I'm not a serial killer. I'm like, no, they took the action, but what they were feeling inside, you have that same feeling
Woo.
inside you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
truth in that.
Yeah.
Yes, we've all felt that rage,
Rage. Yes.
pure
Yes.
rage. Nobody's immune to that. We have access to all of the spectrum. And the more we enable ourselves to lean and feel into that stuff, those emotions, is our ability to be able to go into that shadow piece of us and own it, right? It's
Yep.
it's what you said. It's the action. That's where a serial killer or whatnot would take it to that next level,
Yep.
right? Most of us have that um uh humanity or whatever it is in us.
Yeah.
And oh, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I'll put the knife down.
Yeah, put the knife down. Yeah, because I don't think there's ever been a serial killer meditator, you know, around. So
Maybe post arrest.
yeah, maybe.
But
But
on
yeah,
conversely, on the opposite side of that too, Pablo, is the people who are in complete and utter denial of that side
yeah,
of them, right? And they're like, oh, I could never be angry. I don't, there's like a complete neutrality almost in that emotional in that emotional state, because the joy or the I want to murder somebody, that anger, that rage is too much for
yeah,
some people, right? And that in itself puts it so deep in the shadow. And what's not being realized by that individual is that it's coming out anyway. Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah. It's gonna come
not
out.
always, you know, um,
Yeah.
you just can't see it. Um, wow, that's so fascinating. Were you finished telling your story, or do you have
Oh
more?
well, I wanted to go back to what you said about denial real
Yeah,
quick. That was part of my story. Was I was in, at the beginning or all these years, I was married before, and but I was in denial about a lot of things. Like I was in denial of why, my marriage ended the way it did. Like I
right,
was blaming her for everything. Like
right,
she cheated on me, she did this, she did
right,
that.
yeah,
But it, and that ended like years ago.
right,
The, now I can realize, I can see that what I caused, like my fault in all this, and that's the thing, is like owning up to your fucking shit.
yeah,
That's like the biggest thing.
yeah,
Like throwing your ego aside, owning up to your shit, knowing you were wrong here, apologizing, and then trying to do better.
yeah,
Like I was so used to just putting the blame on everybody for everything, and this, my life is this way because of this job and this person and blah
yeah,
blah blah. Man, taking ownership
yeah.
of your life is so powerful.
It's so
That's the
powerful.
most powerful thing we could do, is to know that we have that power to take control of whatever happens to us, and be able to flow with what's going on, because I know I can't control the things that happen to me, but I can control how I respond, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go from there, because the shit is not going to stop. The shit
Yeah,
that comes to us is not going to stop for the rest of our lives. Things don't get better, we get better.
yeah,
And I try to, tell people that, things don't get better, we get better, but they don't, a lot of people don't see it that way.
mm. How do they
um
see it?
there's still a lot of blame. There's still a lot of blame. Like, I try not to get into politics, but it's the same thing. When they bring up politics, when I see all this stuff on Facebook, they're
Yeah,
blaming the president, they're blaming the new president, they're blaming, all these things, which, yeah, they do have, they do play, what they do does play a role with what happens in our country. But how is it affecting you? Are you free? You're not free. They're prisoners because of what they do. I feel like I'm free because I don't let it affect me,
right.
because that's the outside. Whatever affects me is going to be internally, you
Yes.
know. So how I feel about something, how I react to something, that's what's affecting me,
Yeah.
in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I love that. So for me, the word that keeps coming up around what you're saying right now is victim, right? We all have
Yeah.
that
Oh
victim.
man.
Right? Like I lived
Yeah.
victim for my whole life, and it's
Yeah.
so good, like
Uh,
a pig in shit, just languishing in that victim energy,
You were waiting for somebody to come rescue you, right?
rescue me, or
Yeah.
it's the victim perpetrator savior loop, which is that, and this was something that I learned at a very deep level early in 2020, through my mentor, and how I was showing up in that way. And I had thought I had transcended all of it. And then it's like, oh shit, like there's still some things here in my shadow, and that were around that particular loop, where it wasn't just the victim save me, poor me, blame, but it was also that perpetrator, right, which showed up for me as like manipulation, emotional manipulation,
Yeah.
right? Let me cry and then you'll feel sorry for me, and then whatever. And then the savior, it's like, oh, you're broken, let me save you, especially with the masculine and relationships and things like that. It was like, ooh, yay, another one I can fix,
Save them.
you know
Yeah. Oh man, woo, those are tough. Yeah. But
right.
that's how I feel that all this started was that I think I attracted her to save me. She's a savior,
Right.
but she's a mother figure by doing that. And it did kill attraction because there were so many things that she was trying to help me with and
Right.
save me. And like, how is a woman going to be in a relationship when she's constantly taking care of him like a kid?
Cannot.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no
I mean,
polarity. Done.
for for a little bit it might work, but to keep doing that, it's not going to work. This is cool that this came up too because I saw Ashley post something about
This is
what do you look for in a relationship and something about oh yeah, I think you commented on it.
oh, okay.
So the crazy thing about this is that I said everything but nurturing.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
So that's what I have my mom for.
Right.
Ayahuasca humbled me. Ayahuasca always humbles me. So I went to a ceremony last about 3 weeks ago, and that conversation was, I guess, in my subconscious because it came up, during the ceremony. But I had this feeling that I wanted to be nurtured because my ego was saying, okay, I don't need nurturing, but to a certain point, I do. Like not all the time, but
Right.
I do. So I was sitting by the fire, curled up,
Right.
wanting to be nurtured by a woman. And I started thinking about my mom. She passed away, a couple years ago, so that's not going to happen. Um, I
Yeah.
started thinking the fire is called grandfather. So we respect the fire and call it grandfather. So it made me think of my grandfather, how he nurtured us when we were little. And it was just like all these things coming to me. I wanted it so bad. So I asked the fire, I was like, may you nurture me with your warmth and your energy. And I laid there and I cried, and it felt so good, to like be humbled. Because this always happens to me too. Whenever I go to a ceremony, I always there's things that my ego's like, oh, I'm good on this, I'm good on that, and then I get there and it's like, it whips me back into place, and like
Yeah.
it always humbles me. But
Yeah. I love it. I love the word humble. Yeah, I love it. Okay. Wow. We have a lot to loop back on here.
yeah, so
Um, so just want to sit in this energy for a second
okay,
because this is beautiful, right? When we're stirring up this
all this
energy,
stuff, yeah,
right? This could be activating for some people, this could be, and so it's like it's okay, it's okay, whatever is coming up for whoever's listening or watching or whatever, it's all good. These are the things
mm,
that need to be seen, and when they come up to the surface and they're looked at, then that's when the healing can happen, right?
yeah,
That's when you can get to the other side, which is what you're talking about here in your story, is that before, you struggled with things like confidence, and you needed that liquid courage, but also you weren't in touch with your truth, you weren't in touch with who you were as a man, as an
yeah,
individual, as a human. And you called in, your higher self called in this experience with this woman, and through that experience was the complete and utter destruction of everything that you knew, from being a father to being a lover, a boyfriend, like needing to be nurtured, not needing to be nurtured, or whatever it is.
yeah,
And being the human that your soul chose in this lifetime all came kind of like fragmenting off, so that you could find this individual that you are now. um I feel what happens in this space is like achievement is gone. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't resonate with the word achievement anymore, or goal, or anything like that, right? Like, I don't know if you do or not, but I don't, because it
not
feels
at
like
all.
it's something external that you're reaching for. Whereas when you have gone through what you've just described, which is the shadow, and releasing the ego, and I can see how important that is to you, because you even said, you know, I'm better than her, but I don't mean that in an ego way. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about the growth, yes, that happens, of course. And
Yeah.
yes, it's
We
okay to
outgrow people.
acknowledge
Yeah.
that. What's that?
We outgrow people, and I
We
had to
don't know
recognize
people.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're all on our own journey. And you taught her a lot, I'm sure, in that as well, whether she was open to it or not, that's her journey, right? But
Yeah.
I think what happens is once we let go and like all that ego achievement, goal oriented stuff kind of like falls aside, it's more of this like, what's the energy? It's like it's an unfolding, 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 unfolding. It's like this unfolding of who we are, our heart, our soul, our heart, our soul. And in it is that sense of inner, um, I don't know, I need a word for this gesture. It's like inner, I don't want to, like, it's the strength almost in a way,
Yeah.
right? A calm, a
Yeah.
presence, right? Because like you said, you're not like being flung from side to side anymore from these external things. Yes, you
Yeah.
still can be. Yes, I can be, right? But it has a different flavor to it now. It's not baked in that victim
Yeah.
mindset anymore. Like it might be for 5 minutes or something, and then you're just like, whoa, wait a minute. I am the creator.
Yeah.
And
It's resistance. Like
yeah,
I was resisting too many things.
yeah. Yes, it's surrender, right? It's more of
Yeah.
a surrender. It's more of a surrender, but it's not weak.
No, surrender is powerful. And I think being vulnerable is the most powerful thing someone can be, is
Yes,
vulnerable, is
yes,
because when you become vulnerable, you're showing the universe that no matter what comes at you, you can handle that.
yeah,
And
yes.
that's big.
That's big. That's huge,
Yeah.
right? And my question is like, with all of this work that you've done on yourself, how confident do you feel now?
Wow. My confidence level is way up there, but every time, when I realize certain things with when something, something comes to mind, I'm always humbled. Like that word humble comes right next to my confidence
Yeah,
because I know that I'm not no better than anyone else, but I know my value and my worth. And
yeah,
my thing is too, when it came to me moving on and dating other people and things like that, was that, knowing your value, you can just walk away. And
yeah.
walking away is powerful too.
It's
Like
so powerful.
taking there's so many things to take your power back,
Yeah,
is to not let someone treat you a certain way and walk away knowing that who you are. And I think we do cling on to things and people because we feel like we need them for some reason to validate us or whatever. But standing in your own power, walking away and knowing that something else better is going to come along, a job, a person, relationship, whatever, it, that's the mindset have to have. And having that mindset, that's part of manifesting. But staying in that vibration and that frequency and moving along in your life, things just started coming to me.
they do.
There's so many things that started coming to me, and it's amazing because like I can sit back and laugh,
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, I manifested this and it felt great when it came. But if you're feeling great all the for the majority of the time, when you want to manifest something, you're feeling great, you don't need it. And
yeah,
that's how you manifest, is
yeah.
like you get to a point where you don't even need what you want and it's just going to come to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. So I call this goddess currency. I just did a
Yeah,
receiving challenge
that's cool.
around that, and I like got the URL. I made an Instagram account and everything because it's like that's what this is. It's goddess currency. And yes, you are a man, but
Yeah.
you are still like fully embodied in the goddess, and I love it because that is what the energy is, right? It's that
Yeah.
union of the Shiva and the Shakti, right? It's
Hmm.
that union of those two. And you said yin and yang before, right? that's
Yeah.
that's what all of this is. And the confidence isn't that ego boastful, yo, I'm like, whatever. It is that inner solid knowing of who you are what your value is, what your worth is, what your truth is. And it gives you that ability to be able to speak your truth more often than not and know what's true, even if you sit in the shit for a little while. Like, even if you go into a relationship that maybe isn't that healthy, or an environment or something like that that isn't that healthy, you're doing it now from a much more conscious space. And at least for me now anyway, when I do enter into situations where I'm like, ooh, this might not be for my highest, I can then go, oh, but what am I here to learn? Obviously, I was brought here for a reason. So let's have fun and learn.
You know, I thought that way for a long time too, and I again I stay balanced with this too. Like when something happens, like what am I here to learn?
What am
Like
I?
I'm here to learn something. This happened, I'm here to learn something, and then I took myself out of that equation
Okay.
sometimes, and and again I try to humble myself and say, well, maybe I'm in this situation for them to learn something. I'm
Mm,
not always the center of the universe.
right. Yes.
So I think about that too. I'm like, okay, let me put myself out.
Right.
You know, I think I'm good right now, but if there's something I need to learn from it, I'll find out later. But
Yeah.
let's think about them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just had something like that actually a couple weeks ago, in the dating realm. And I was like, that was really weird. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, that wasn't for me. That was for him, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I got that, but I still got a lot of learning out of it as well. But to your point, like, yeah, we're not always the center of the universe as much
Yeah.
as our ego likes us to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I do like when it comes to teaching. So, you know, the master and the teacher, or the teacher and the student, I think the roles are flopped. Like
yes.
they always, like the teacher teaches the student,
Yeah.
but it's vice versa too. The student teaches the teacher at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So like we're always learning, no matter what.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I agree with you there. Like it's totally, you
Yeah.
know, and there's one thing that I want to like kind of loop back to just for the last few minutes, because I think it's a really important conversation to be had. And that is what your role for your daughter. And like for myself, this is a touchy subject, and I actually had a conversation with somebody, one of my friends earlier on today about this. um, like I made similar decisions. I made decisions around my own personal growth because I was not showing up for my children. I have two children, and I wasn't showing up for them in the way that I knew I could have.
Yeah.
And if I had kept going there and trying to make that work, or trying to be that, I would have spiraled even more out and been way worse for them. And you said like it was hard to do that, and there was that sense there of letting her down or abandonment or whatever. I can't remember what words you used exactly, but, and I'm paraphrasing again, but um in the end, you were leading by example, and you were showing your daughter, like, you know what, sometimes we need to take care of our mental and spiritual and emotional health in order for us to show up as powerful, strong parents
Yeah.
for our children. And that's definitely been my journey, where I've turned it around, and like now I can be present with my children now in a way that I could have never been before. Never. And I can teach them things now. I can talk to them about consciousness. I can talk to them about love from a place of knowing what it really fucking feels like. Because when I first had my kids, and up till they were maybe, well, my eldest was maybe like 5, I didn't know what love felt like, what love actually felt like. And I remember having a conversation with my coach several years ago. And I was like, my son is trying to give me love, and I can't accept it. It was it was torture. I'm like, here is this innocent child wanting to hug me, wanting to give me love, and I was like, I can't. And I took it to my coach, and I was like, I got to fix this shit, because I'm not putting my children through, that kind of rejection, separation in terms of love that I went through. I want to um be a container for that for them, but I need to understand what that means for me. Like, I don't fucking know what it feels like to be loved or to love. What does that? It's just a word.
Yeah.
And you know, that's when I got to work on those particular areas of understanding, like of loving myself, right?
Yeah.
And all of these little pieces that we're talking about here in terms of like self, like understanding your worth and understanding your value and all of that, and how it eventually you know, equates to confidence and all these fun joyous manifestation things. But the real dirt of that is having that separation between us and love, you know. And I think whatever it is that you did in that time frame that was deeper, um is only going to give your daughter permission to be who she is, and a loving, strong, confident, powerful woman from this deeper place that
Yeah.
she might have never been able to access if you hadn't done this.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the it was, I want to say it was about 2 months that I was without her. But prior to that was a lot of, when growing up, me drinking of
Right.
things that, being like having a hangover, and her waking me up in the morning as a little kid, Dad, take me to the park. And I would say no, I didn't feel good. But her mom did play a really, really big role in the issues that she has too. So
Right.
we've talked about a lot of this stuff, and a lot of the stuff is like her and her mom don't talk right now,
Right.
and that's hard for her. So I'm trying to step up, and I can only play the masculine role.
Right.
Um, but something that she did get out of all this is that she grew herself, and she told me, she's like, Dad, those few months, I learned this and this, and I knew I grew, and being alone, and I felt this and felt that, but I made it, and I did, hearing that story, even though when she first told it, it hurt, and it hurt me.
Yeah, of
But
course.
now we can both talk about it and realize like that was an experience in our life, and we're in a different place now. Our relationship is a lot better, so much better. But again, I realized too is that, like, I can't tell my daughter what to not tell her. Like, I want her to be the best that she can be, right? So as a parent, we're like, well, you should do this, and you should do that, and you should do this, and I stopped doing that. And what I'm doing now is asking her questions. Like,
Yeah.
do you think this would be a good idea? Do you think this would help? And letting her make those choices,
Yeah.
whether they're good or bad, and let her go through her own, crap or whatever.
Yep.
Um, but I feel like I am having to do that less and less because she's just watching what I do.
Right.
And um, she did come to a ceremony with me, which was amazing. Like, I'm so glad she went because people don't, I I guess I try to be quiet about this stuff because we live in a society where it's probably frowned upon because it's a psychedelic, but this is the most powerful medicine that anyone can have. And they, a lot of the indigenous people give it to their kids, at a really young age.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, she's got a great heart. She's doing amazing. I see nothing but the best in her future. And I'm looking at it as a standpoint of happiness and um, I know she's going to have success. And I'm not saying success as in a monetary way, because I do realize that money is not going to, you can't be happy with money. I know that. So you can, she just, I don't know. She knows a lot. She's very mature for her age. I see her going in a very great direction, and it was a lot of crap that we all had to go through to get her where she's at now. Um, but between me and her, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that she will follow.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like she is. And I would challenge what you said, about just being the masculine energy. I think there's a beautiful
I
balance.
try. I do try. I do try. Trust me. But she even told me last week.
What's that?
I try, but she told me last week, she was like, "Dad, you're not mom."
Yeah.
And like, I try to be
Fair enough.
the nurture her, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just, there's a different,
Just
the
like,
mother's love, yeah, you
yeah.
can't replace that. So
Yeah. 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 But you know what? Who's to say any of that anymore? You know, like we are you know, when we can be balanced within those two energies within ourselves, you know, um, I think one parent being balanced in the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine,
And the feminine,
right,
yes.
is better. Not to say things are better or worse, not to be judgy or anything, but is more nurturing, or whatever word we want to use for this, than two parents who are in the same household who are in their unhealthy, or
Yeah,
I use the word toxic just for simplicity's sake, so that people can
yeah,
under like they get that word. It's a simple word. I know a lot of people don't like the word toxic around feminine and masculine, right? It's just unhealed or whatever, right? um Unbalanced, however you want to look at it, right? And so when you have two parents that are in that dynamic, right, that
mhm.
child isn't understanding what it means to be a whole individual, right? So I think like just even being, you know, where you are in your journey, being like trying to have that balance is the best lesson that you can give your daughter.
That's something that that's big for me now, that the relationship stuff helped me out was with my daughter,
Yeah.
because she is a female, but I'm learning to treat her according to her moods, knowing what to do. You know, when she's emotional, you
Right.
let her have those emotions. You don't try to control them. You let her have it. You just be there for her. And before, I was trying to control that.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that I can take into an intimate relationship, the knowledge of that, and take it into how I treat my daughter.
Right.
So that was big for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because that's one thing we cannot stand as women is when men try to fix it. Wait,
Oh yes, I already know. Yeah. And there's either two things. Hey, I'll be here if you need me,
yeah,
but if not, go do what you need to do. Like go off, go out with your friends, go whatever it is.
yeah, I'll be
I'll
here.
be yeah.
Oh my goodness, I have so many more things I want to talk to you about, but we've gone like I guess maybe
Yeah.
40 minutes here. I have no idea, but um, thank you,
No,
thank
thank
you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for showing up in this space with your story and your journey, and you know, acknowledging where you were before and what you went through um, to where you are now, and that, and not sugarcoating it, not bypassing it, not making it seem like, oh, it's all sunshine and roses. Like, yes, you feel amazing, yes, life is good, but that's because your outlook on it has changed, you know.
you.
It
That
doesn't
perception.
mean that the shit doesn't still hit the fan. It just
Yeah.
means you're not getting splattered with it, right? You are in more of a centered space with all of this and able to shine that light onto the rest of the world, which is exactly what we need right now, is more people doing this.
Yes.
And it's worth it. It's totally worth it, I think, you
It's
know?
the spillover effect,
Yeah.
what we call it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Spillover, butterfly, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Dirt and the Divine podcast. I really appreciate you being here and sharing all of this. And do you have any parting thoughts about anything? It seems like you have something that you want to say. So,
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. But for everybody out there that is losing hope,
mm,
or they feel like they're just hitting rock bottom, like when you are feeling that you're at your lowest or you're at the bottom, there's only one way to go, and that's up. And it is looking within and finding all your answers. All your answers are within. But there is hope. There's better days, but I think if you can be present with where you're at in each moment, not in the past and not in the future, the more you do that, the more you're aware of your present moments, you'll start to see things change.
I love that. That right there is divine masculine presence.
Awesome. Well,
Love it.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty.
Amazing.